Welcome to another episode of OT Cyber from the plant floor up. We have a little change up once again with this episode. We'll have our CRO, Chris Gibbs. So, Chris, take it away.
Jen, thank you very much for handing it over to me. Yeah, a little change of pace today. We're going to be talking to a long-time DYNICS partner that has made a concerted effort to join with us, bringing our cyber protection, control, and visibility tools to the market. So with us today from Cornerstone Technical Group out of Franklin, Tennessee, is Adam. Adam's a co-owner and an application engineer there. Adam, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll start the discussion.
Yeah, well, Chris, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. So Adam with Cornerstone. I've been with the company, I would say almost 14 years. So application engineer, background is controls and automation. So lots of different experience over the years. But like a little bit about just Cornerstone in general and like what we do and how does that fit in. So Cornerstone, we're a 23-year-old company, headquartered, kind of like Chris said, headquartered in Franklin, Tennessee, made up of mostly degreed engineers. And what we are is a high-tech industrial automation solutions provider. So a lot of words, but what that means is that we love to solve automation problems. So typically when clients come to us, they know they have some sort of a pain point or some sort of a automation problem they want to solve. Unfortunately, they actually don't know how to solve it, so they don't know what type of a technology, what type of a product, and that's where we come in and provide them that information. So having access to best-of-breed products that we have been factory trained on, we're able to provide a single PO solution to the customer using, different technology, different vendors. And we can also provide a single point of contact for that entire solution, meaning the customer is very happy for the solution that we have solved, as well as we create a long relationship with that client.
That's great. All right. Well, tell me about your customer base. What do they look like? Who are your customers?
So the Southeast is made up of a variety of different, as we tailored the Southeast, variety of different vertical markets, so not only we have, manufacturing, OEMs, and machine builders, they also have vertical markets that are in, machine building or OEMs that focus on specifically on printing industry. We have automotive, food and beverage, disposable consumable goods, specialty metals. So a variety of different sectors that we truly focus on that we can help the clients with.
All with operate OT, ICS networks, all using your skill set to help continue their operations.
That's right. Yeah. So exactly.
That's great. And then business for you today. What got you here? What product lines, what technologies, what things have you had? And then what do you see for the future? And what have you guys done to prepare yourself for that future?
Yeah, so technology is always changing. If you go back to products that we represented 10 years ago, 13 years ago, even 23 years ago, they have changed and moved forward. Before, if you remember, a lot of the products were not interconnected as they are now. We've always had the whole thing of Internet of Things or industrial Internet of Things or Internet 4.0. And that has slowly transitioned into products that are out there and are interconnected. Being on the front line, we're starting to see that. I really wouldn't call it Internet 4.0, but there's a lot of data that is being transferred from the plant floor into the other side. I'll just call it enterprise or IT. So a lot of data is being transferred that typically used to not be. So when we are looking at individual application, whether it be a motion application where you have a motor, a drive, a motion controller, a lot of those things have some sort of information that is being done internally, but also is being transferred further up, and that creates vulnerabilities. And we're starting to see that how the lack of cybersecurity within the OT is becoming a problem.
Gotcha. So you're seeing that as they're automating, vulnerabilities are creating a problem. Are your customers concerned with the threat landscape? What are they telling you?
It depends who you ask. I think manufacturing, is for how advanced it is of what manufacturing produces. There is a lot of outdated products running around still within the factory floor. So when you ask somebody about, how is their network, a lot of the plant manufacturing engineering side refers to the typical answer, IT handles it, or it's good, we're secure. And we hear that a lot, but I think it's most of the reason why that is due to the fact that it's the easy answer, and they truly don't understand networking within their facility. I go back to what my wife said. She works in a different industry, and we were just talking, and one quote that truly resonated with me, and I don't think she can coin it because it was somebody else's, but it is, even if it's not your fault, it is your responsibility. And I like to tie that back into cybersecurity, and that's something that we're noticing is that a lot of people seem to think that cybersecurity is not on their plate. It's not part of engineering. When you look at IT, they might not consider OT to be part of their scope as well for what they're trying to do on the part of their work. Well, what happens is that nobody kind of claims it, and it's almost like in the middle, and you're starting to see where that opens up a big threat and vulnerability for threat actors, is because nobody's trying to fix the issue, which is currently pretty open for the most part. I mean, when you look at plant floor, you can see, I don't know nowadays, but when I went a few places where I've been to, some of those computers are still running DOS. Some of them have truly never been updated for any type of a Windows platform. And that's because they're not supposed to be. Their main portion is to be available. If you look at the CIA triad, most of it has to be available. You have to have a working connection. Just because you're manufacturing things, you can't shut down the machine for a Windows update. So when you're asking people where, to tie them back to your question, like when you ask people how they feel about it, I think most of them are just confused of what the actual threat is and the potential of the threat, as well as how it can truly happen.
It's interesting. It's a threat landscape to the operational network, right? It would be the threat actors that are out there in the wild, but it could also just be general operations and day-to-day, and the IT groups needing to get data. Anything that could stop that plant from operating is a potential threat, if you will, to that.
You're not even
manager.
Yeah, you're not even fighting that out external. There is so much internal that happens, threats internally. I'm speaking of IT, IT's always getting some sort of an attack from the outside world, and they do what they do, which is protect the enterprise, and they do it well. But there are instances where that really doesn't happen, where the protection failed, and now you have a direct path right into the OT plant floor. And at that point, I mean, it's a playground for anybody that is able to manipulate the data, take recipes out of PLCs. There are certain things that are out there that really can damage the operation, shut down the plant, or just, and even endanger people.
Now, I'm going to pivot a little bit here, and then I'm going to tie back to that line we were just on. So go back and talk a little bit about Cornerstone and DYNICS, how we got started, what we did. And then with regard to what we were just talking about with cyber, come into, hey, what we love about DYNICS and why we are going with them in this direction is this. Tell me about what you're seeing from us and what you like.
Well, so we've been a DYNICS partner for very, very long time. I would say almost to the very first day one. It was even before my time at that point, but we were Ann Arbor distributor and had access to that products. And if you go back, Ann Arbor had the touch screen, the 10.1 inch screens that were very unique and, something that it was not very common still. So having access to that, when we were already speccing out machines, that was, innovative at that point. But, over the years when Arbor and DYNICS became one, we've always had the products for the applications that we solve. So when we solve applications, we have three specific silos that I would say, which is motion, sensing, and process visualization. And when we solve an application for a customer, typically they consist of not just one, but more than likely two out of the three silos, as most applications kind of require a little bit of everything. And that's kind of where we have DYNICS for our partner, just because there are instances where we do need a display. 10-inch display is nothing at this point when we're solving applications with multi-screen 55-inch ones like walls, and additionally IPCs. And then that's where the cybersecurity comes in, and why we are partners specifically for that cybersecurity is because DYNICS, when you look at a lot of cybersecurity out there, specifically on the OT, I think most of them miss the point. And that is, when you have a product that is tailored for OT, you have, just like DYNICS makes, you are familiar with the industrial protocols, the Ethernet IP, the Profinet, all of those things. When you talk to other companies out there, specifically even the cybersecurity of IT, they have no clue what industrial protocols are. And I think having a product that is tailored specifically for the plant floor really, targets a lot of applications, and it shows that you can solve and protect a lot of the plant floor.
That's a great point. The previous From the Plant Floor podcast was Jeff Smith and Rob Grove talking about DYNICS, how we got to where we are today. And, Jeff was on the plant floor in a manufacturer, and he didn't get what he needed from his existing suppliers. So we went out and built it. And then he came over and brought that tool set and his vision and his continual vision to the team. And we've all embraced it. Mm-hmm. What is Cornerstone doing? Because you guys are doing something innovative for a partner of DYNICS. As long as you've decided to put some concrete action into joining us with the visibility control and protection offerings we've had. Talk about that.
Yeah, so we see this as cybersecurity as being a problem. So we actually have a division that is targeting cybersecurity, as we see as that as a big threat. So we see this as one of those things that has to be addressed in the future. It has to be that plant manufacturing has to consider cybersecurity as another product that is part of their portfolio, just like you would be selecting PLCs or robotics or, any type of emotion control. It needs to be connected on that side rather than seeing it as an IT thing. Just because you hear the word cybersecurity doesn't automatically move that product or that protection onto the IT. At some point, IT is just going to be, just overwhelmed with a lot of different attacks or, types of attacks that they will not be able to decipher, split up and be able to protect the enterprise and the OT side. And I think that's where we as Cornerstone see it as that needs to be almost as an advocate for that, as well as, when we talk to clients, when we specify project, that's something that we bring in. Hey, have you thought about cybersecurity? Have you considered that? A lot of them are confused at that point. Well, what do you mean? And so we have to elaborate what the difference is between the OT and the IT, how this works. You have clients that automatically say, yeah, we're secure. We already have, just a standard VPN. But when you truly hear them and discuss it, they're completely open. Then at that point, you kind of see it in their eyes. They're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. So hence we're moving forward with that team and kind of advocating it and pushing forward with DYNICS.
Yeah, and you're increasing your staffing on that team. I know you guys brought in a guy to be your point man, if you will.
Exactly.
And so you're investing in people and investing and we absolutely appreciate that here at DYNICS that you're doing that, and we look forward to working with you. Matter of fact, I'm going to be in Birmingham and Knoxville 2 different weeks in September with your team, and I look forward to those meetings that we're going after. And there are a variety of different manufacturers, a variety of different use cases. Some is the traditional, hey, we've got, I'm a CIO, got IT security responsibility. I know I got to protect my plant because that's the revenue generation, and I got to do that. Others are, hey, we're the OEM manufacturing this machine. We need to keep this network running. So it's a variety of different ones, and I look forward to being with that team doing that. And I think we're going to get some good operational data and some good response from the guys.
Yeah. Well, one thing I like to maybe even add a little bit more, just because I think it's an important topic, is I think from when you look at manufacturing, and this applies to not just on the cybersecurity, but a lot of products that we represent and we try to solve the problems. When you compare manufacturing to any other industry, other industries are very proactive. They're looking into ways of, well, let's think about it. How can we move forward? But when you look at manufacturing in general, they are very, very reactive. Typically, it's, let's just say you're maybe not be familiar, but on a hygienic design, right? You have machines that are hygienically designed to prevent, pathogens or such as Listeria, E. coli. Well, a lot of companies might not consider designing it in that specific way. They'll just use standard products, which kind of grows the pathogens, until the fact that there is a recall, and now they throw out the machine or upgrade it into a more hygienic. It's the same thing with, safety products out there. If somebody kind of gets hurt, now there is an increase. It's this. I think in general, that's very similar with cybersecurity. And hence you start seeing that. You hear it from people. Why would we be attacked? What do they want from us? We're just a small company. But when you look at, like the statistics, even going back to 2020, from 2020 until now, Lockbit has received $91 million for all of their ransomware. So things that a small company would say, like I mentioned, well, why would they attack us? Well, because you have zero security. You're the easiest person to be attacked and the easiest person to get some money. And if you don't pay, you can pretty much put you out of business. Similarly with larger companies, you always hear larger companies come in and say, well, we're so-and-so. Why would they attack us? We got to be safe. And then you start digging into it, and they're not. Hence, you start seeing, ransomware that is massive from, what was that company, JBS or something like that, out of the meat packer from Brazil with a 13 million ransom. You have Bridgestone that got hacked, the pipelines, all of those things. So I think it's
The reality of today's threat landscape is everyone's a target for exactly what you said.
that's right.
They'll get some money from you, more money from others, but they're still going to get money from you. And it is easy to do not a true spray and pray attack, but let's just say a targeted attack against open assets on the internet, because there are tool sets out there like Shodan and Census, which roll the internet and then publish that material. So when the threat actor wants to go after, they create the exploit, they look at Shodan, and then they go and get it, which is interesting. And then going back to the tool sets that DYNICS has created when you were going to reactive and proactive, the DYNICS tool sets are proactive tool sets in that they do something. They control and protect and provide visibility, not detect and requiring somebody to do something afterwards. Because one of the challenges, especially in the U.S. in general and in manufacturing, certainly more so, is there is a lack of resources. There's a lack of people to do what needs to be done. So the tool sets that we've created, I'm just pumping our tools right now, are designed to protect so that whoever you are, Mr. Plant Manager and team on the floor, can go and continue operations of the plant. You don't have time to do instant response or investigating potential threats or seeing why somebody has access. Let's just not let it in to begin with. That's kind of the mindset we have. And I love that Cornerstone is joining us with that and going after it.
Yeah. No, we're super excited about it.
Good. When you're talking to your customer base on the floor, how many of them would you say, let's go percentages on this. How many of them say, hey, we do have cyber, we do own it? And then how many would you think say, that's a different organization, a different business unit within the organization, but we still want to know what's going on? What do you think is the breakdown? Because in this IT and OT convergence, how much of traditional IT things have been passed over to OT? I guess that's the long-winded way of asking that last question. So we'll cut all that other stuff out.
Wish I could answer percentagely with a percentage, I guess. But the problem with answering that is that majority of the people that we talk, they all have an answer of, yes, we are secure, we have cybersecurity. But when you dive deeper, things that are just VPN, they consider security. Things that are IT portion that really never even goes into the plant floor, they consider that is their cybersecurity. So it's really, I would say majority are not secure. However, they think that they are.
In the Verizon, to your point, the Verizon data breach reports for the last number of years, in 100% of the cases, they had a firewall. They had those tools.
Yeah.
They still were breached.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the thing is that we are so accustomed to hearing the word, not even in work, but just personally, firewall this, we got antivirus, you just hear it just from just general public. And I think that kind of stuck with us that, when you talk to people, that's what they think. We are already secure. We have some sort of firewall. We already have, I'm assuming, some sort of a security. We are currently protected. But when you start truly explaining to them the different scenarios that could happen, for example, when you say, okay, you have your IT handling all your cybersecurity. So what you're telling me is that if I go onto the plant floor as let's just say a contractor that came in there in order to fix your PLC that for some reason faulted, and I go out there, open up the panel. Inside of the panel, I see the hub. I connect my PC to it, my laptop that I brought with me that has the software for the PLC. I plug into the hub. I connect to the PLC, fix your stuff. And what you're telling me is that IT will know that I have connected to the network. That's whenever you start saying, well, no, but why would they? I mean, you're just fixing my PLC. Well, can you guarantee that your firewall is going to protect my infected PC? No.
Which just walked right in the plant, which just walked right in and connected.
Exactly. So, how many customers, have computers on the plant floor that are, quote, air-gapped from the rest of the world, but yet they are able to go on their personal email account and check their mail? I mean, it's at that point, is IT really protecting you? Doesn't look like it because of the things that it's air-gapped. So it's the scenarios that they are accustomed to, that everything comes from IT. IT is the gatekeeper of all our security. There is no way we can be potentially attacked, not from a piece, a POC, not from, even a employee that is just mad and plugs in or changes things. IT cannot control that.
Yeah, those are some really interesting real life scenarios that I'm sure you've experienced with your customer base.
Oh yeah.
And any others like that? Any others that you're like, this was interesting? The other thing is network mapping. We haven't got to it yet, but I think it's a huge one. One of our tools, the OT-SDN controller, it tells you exactly what's operating on your network, especially if you have the SDN switch, which who else can tell you that in real time? It's a big use case.
It can tell you in real time without trying to shut down the machines.
Exactly. And then you can control what connects to what. So Adam, what other, interesting operational scenarios have you heard from your customers?
Yeah. So one actually that's very unique, and you would think that would be, like we mentioned before, that most of the threat actors or the attackers are always from external, that there's something going on that they want to get inside of the plant. But one scenario it's quite the opposite. It's from internal. And so we have one customer that their biggest fear on the plant floor of this described plant floor is their IT. Specifically, they don't want to have any accidental changes or any accidental firmware updates or any modifications to the network that could impact the OT floor due to the nature of what they are manufacturing. Meaning that if anything happened, it would cause, a massive, what I would say is
disruption. It would stop the project. It would stop them delivering on what their objective is. And see that
in a very dangerous way.
Exactly, because I can tell that there's a critical nature to that customer.
Yes.
And so it's obvious from the discussion, Cornerstone, you guys know your customer base. You're working with us, and we appreciate that, and we look forward to continued success. Any last thoughts from you and from Cornerstone that you'd want to get out to your customers?
One big thing that always I would like to touch on when it comes down to specific cybersecurity also is we always focus so much in business on the ROI. When are we going to see the return on this? And I think with cybersecurity, that's something that you can try to solve, but I think you really need to focus on the COI, the cost of inaction. What would happen if you didn't do anything? What would happen if you not protected yourself? What would happen if, let's say, for example, you had a home and you just didn't want to put a front door in? What would that do? What if it would introduce a potential threats to come inside your home? It's the same thing with cybersecurity. So I think when looking at applications, when looking at overall cybersecurity, you got to kind of step back and reassess what exactly are we doing here on this plant floor. We are manufacturing products that this company sells. If for some reason we are unable to produce this product, or product that has been altered by a different company in order to have wrong tolerances, and now it's very defective part, we would no longer be able to make that product, which means we would no longer be able to have the plant or the company. That is, a fictional story in a sense, but it's true. You really have to step back and determine what makes this company a company, and it is our products that we create. I know I didn't include that, and that's not about Cornerstone, but that's something that I feel like needs to be addressed, as it is missed to a lot of the conversations. We focus so much on product that, we try to sell or try to solve, but you really got to step back to the basics operationally and determine what exactly are we doing here.
That is a great point. The factory has to run. It is the reason for the business, whatever the business is. And the negative impacts on that business, should they have to try to recover from an event, you hear of businesses going out of stopping operations because they can't continue to function. And if you can't continue to produce, what are you going to sell? And if you can't sell, the whole circle is there. And that is why a Cornerstone, you guys are doing what you're doing, and that's absolutely why DYNICS builds the tools that we do. It is to keep the plant running. That is a great point, and probably a good time to stop, because what is more important than that exact point? That is why we're doing what we're doing. All right. Well, Adam, I want to thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you, A, being a partner, and B, helping us get the word out on this podcast. And that will end it for this episode.